The Hidden Realm by Porscha A. Aubrey. The castle was alive with the buzz of excitement. The coronation of Prince Alaric, the heir to the throne, was only a day away, and the kingdom was preparing for the grand celebration. Everywhere you looked, there were banners and flowers, feasts being prepared, and citizens eagerly awaiting the moment their new king would be crowned. But for Prince Zuko, Alaric's twin brother, the festivities were a constant reminder of the bitterness he struggled to keep buried. Born just 5 minutes later, Zuko had grown up in the shadow of his elder brother, watching as Alaric received all the attention, accolades, and expectations of becoming the next king. It wasn't that Zuko lacked his own talents or virtues, but they always seemed to pale in comparison to Alaric's destined greatness. The envy he felt twisted inside him, even though he loved his brother deeply. The night before the coronation, the twins found themselves in a heated argument, an eruption of all the suppressed emotions Zuko had held for years. Words were said that couldn't be taken back, and Zuko stormed off to his chambers, his heart pounding with anger and frustration. He sat fuming, replaying the argument over and over in his mind, until a soft knock on his door broke his concentration. "Your Highness," came the voice of Lena, one of the chambermaids, as she entered his room. She looked around nervously before speaking again. "I couldn't help but overhear your disagreement with Prince Alaric." Zuko scowled. "It's none of your concern, Lena." "I know, Your Highness, but I have something that might cheer you up. A little jest, something harmless, to ease your mind and maybe even make Prince Alaric laugh after he cools down." Curiosity piqued despite his irritation. Zuko narrowed his eyes. "What are you talking about?" Lena stepped closer, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "A harmless prank, nothing more. It will be a fun jest that will leave him unharmed. I promise." Zuko hesitated. Part of him knew he would ignore her, but the idea of turning the tables on his brother, even briefly, was too tempting. His resentment clouded his judgment, and he nodded. "All right. What do you have in mind?" The next morning the castle was in chaos. Prince Alaric was nowhere to be found. Servants and guards searched frantically, and the entire royal family was in a state of panic. Zuko's initial shock quickly turned into a gnawing guilt. He hadn't meant for anything serious to happen. Lena's words echoed in his mind, and he realized too late that he had been foolish to trust her. Driven by a sense of responsibility and dread, Zuko began searching for any sign of his brother, in the midst of the confusion. He found a trail of destruction leading out of the castle and into the dense, foreboding forest that bordered the kingdom. Zuko found the trail, his heart pounding with each step, until he reached a massive tree with a gaping hole at its base. He arrived just in time to see the last glimpse of his unconscious brother being dragged into the darkness by a shadowy figure. Without a moment's hesitation, Zuko scrambled into the hole, finding himself falling into an abyss. The fall seemed to last an eternity, and when he finally landed, it was with a surprisingly gentleness on a cold, barren ground. He stood, shivering in the bleak and unfamiliar landscape. The air was thick with an oppressive chill, and the sky above was a swirling mass of dark clouds. Zuko pressed on, driven by his love for his brother and the overwhelming need to make things right. After what felt like hours of searching, he reached a glowing river, its eerie luminescence casting long shadows on the shore. Across the river, he saw Alaric being dragged ashore by the dark goddess herself, Nyx, the embodiment of night and darkness. His heart was pounding. Zuko realized he had entered the underworld. He knew he had to act quickly if he was to save Alaric and escape before they were both trapped here forever. Zuko looked around, searching for a moment to cross the river. He noticed a small, rickety boat tied to a post nearby, its skeletal boatman waiting silently. Summoning his courage, Zuko approached and stepped into the boat. The boatman, without a word, began to row across the glowing river, the silence heavy with unspoken threats. And they reached the opposite shore. As they reached the opposite shore, Zuko stepped out and faced Nyx, who stood tall and imposing, her eyes like black voids. She held Alaric, who remained unconscious, in her grasp. "You should not have come here, Prince Zuko," Nyx said, her voice a chilling whisper that seemed to echo through the underworld. "I didn't mean for this to happen," Zuko replied, his voice trembling but resolute. "Please, release my brother. Take me instead if you must." Nyx tilted her head, a cruel smile playing on her lips. Such devotion! Such love! Yet you are the one who set this in motion with your jealousy and spite. Zuko's heart ached with guilt. "I know, I was wrong. But Alaric is innocent. Let him go, and I will do whatever you ask." Nyx considered him for a moment, then released Alaric, who crumpled to the ground. "Very well, Prince Zuko. A deal, then. Your brother will be free to leave, but you will stay here and serve me." Zuko swallowed hard, but nodded. Agreed. Nyx smiled widened, and with a wave of her hand, Alaric began to stir. Zuko rushed to his side, helping him to his feet. "Zuko?" Alaric murmured, his eyes fluttering open. "Where are we? What's happening?" "We're in the underworld," Zuko explained, his voice thick with emotion. "I made a terrible mistake, and I'm going to make it right. You need to leave, Alaric. Get back to the surface." Alaric shook his head, trying to clear his mind. "No, Zuko, I won't leave you here." "You have to," Zuko insisted. "It's the only way." Before Alaric could protest further, Nyx waved her hand again, and a portal appeared, shimmering with a ghostly light. Zuko guided Alaric toward it, feeling the weight of his sacrifice bearing down on him. "Go," Zuko urged. "Be the king of our kingdom needs." With a final, pained look, Alaric stepped through the portal and disappeared. Zuko turned back to Nyx, steeling himself for whatever fate awaited him. Days turned into weeks, and Zuko served Nyx faithfully. He performed tasks that tested his strength and resolve, each one more harrowing than the last. But through it all, his thoughts remained with his brother and the kingdom he had left behind. The bleakness of the underworld pressed heavily on him, but he clung to the hope that Alaric would thrive as king. One day, as Zuko was carrying out yet another arduous task, Nyx appeared before him, his expression her expression inscrutable. "You have served me well, Prince Zuko," she said. "But tell me, why do you persist? What drives you to endure this torment?" Zuko met her gaze, his eyes filled with determination. "Because I love my brother. Because I want to make amends for my mistakes, and because I believe in redemption." Nyx's eyes narrowed, and she studied him for a long moment. Then, to Zuko's surprise, she nodded. "Very well. Your love and loyalty have moved me. I will grant you a chance to earn your freedom." Zuko's heart leapt with hope. "What must I do?" "You must retrieve a shard of the eternal flame, hidden deep within the heart of the underworld," Nyx explained. "Only then will you be free to return to the surface." Zuko nodded, determination burning in his chest. "I will do it." Nyx waved her hand, and a path appeared before Zuko, leading into the darkest depths of the underworld. With a deep breath, Zuko set out on his quest, knowing that failure was not an option. The journey to the heart of the underworld was perilous, filled with treacherous terrain and fearsome creatures. Zuko faced each challenge with unwavering resolve, driven by the thought of seeing his brother again. As he ventured deeper, the air grew colder, and the darkness more suffocating. But Zuko pressed on, his goal clear in his mind. After what felt like an eternity, he finally reached the chamber where the eternal flame resided. The flame burned bright and pure, a stark contrast to the surrounding darkness. Zuko approached cautiously, aware that this final task would be the most difficult. Guarding the flame was a massive, shadowy beast, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. Zuko steeled himself, drawing his sword. The battle that ensued was fierce and relentless, testing Zuko's strength and skill to their limits, but he fought with everything he had, refusing to give up. At last, with a final, desperate strike, Zuko defeated the beast. Exhausted and battered, he approached the eternal flame and carefully retrieved the shard, its warmth and comforting presence in the cold darkness. Clutching the shard, Zuko made his way back to Nyx's lair. The journey was arduous, but he pushed through, driven by the promise of freedom. When he finally stood there before Nyx once more, he presented the shard with trembling hands. Nyx took the shard, her expression unreadable. After a moment, she nodded. "You have done well, Prince Zuko. You have earned your freedom." A portal appeared before Zuko, glowing with a welcoming light. He turned to Nyx, his heart filled with gratitude and relief. "Thank you," he said sincerely. Nyx merely nodded, and Zuko stepped through the portal, the underworld fading away behind him. Zuko emerged into the bright sunlight, the warmth and light a stark contrast to the cold darkness he had endured. He found himself at the edge of the forest, where his journey had begun. As he made his way back to the castle, he felt a renewed sense of purpose and clarity. When he arrived, he was greeted with a mixture of astonishment and relief. Alaric, now crowned king, rushed to embrace him, tears of joy in his eyes. "Zuko, I thought I had lost you forever," Alaric exclaimed, his voice choked with emotion. Zuko hugged his brother tightly. "I'm here, Alaric, and I'm sorry for everything. I let my jealousy get the best of me. But I'll make it right, I promise." Alaric pulled back, smiling through his tears. "You already have, Zuko. You've returned, and that's all that matters." Together, the brothers faced a future of newfound unity and strength. Zuko had learned the true meaning of loyalty, love, and redemption, and he vowed to stand by his brother's side, not as a rival, but as a steadfast ally. The kingdom flourished under Alaric's reign, and Zuko found his place as a trusted advisor and protector. The bond between the twins grew stronger, forged through the trials and strengthened by love. They ruled together, their partnership a testament to the power of forgiveness and the unbreakable ties of family. And so the kingdom thrived, guided by the wisdom and strength of two brothers who had faced the darkness and emerged into the light, forever changed and united in their shared destiny. The end.